To know how many stitches to put in the end of a row, you just have to think about what your turning chain was. So if you're doing double crochets and your turning chain was 2, then at the end of every row of double crochets, you'll need to put 2 stitches. If you were doing treble crochets and your turning chain was a chain of 3, then you'd need to put 3 stitches into that row of treble crochets. Single crochets, you chain 1 for your turning chain, so every row of single crochet will get 1 stitch. Half double crochets are the exception. Half double crochets are not quite 2 stitches tall, so you have to think about half double crochets in pairs. So for every 2 rows of half double crochet, you'd need to put 3 stitches into the ends of those rows. So 2 into one row of half doubles, 1 into the next, 2, 1, 2, 1. And it doesn't matter what stitches you're putting into the end of your rows, because while stitches may vary in height, they're all the same width. So you could put double crochets in the ends of rows, single crochets, triples, half double. It doesn't matter which stitch you're putting in the ends of the rows. You just have to know how many for each stitch. So I have rows of linked double crochet here, and I'm going to start by actually going into the very last stitch that I did in this row. I'm going to go under the top of that. I'm going to grab my working yarn, pull through a loop, and I'm going to do single crochets along this edge. So I'm going to chain 1, then I'm going to do a single crochet. And that counts as 1 stitch for this row of doubles. And then I'm going to find a spot in the double where you can see there's 2 strands of yarn over my hook. You want to make sure that you're going under 2 strands, just as you would when you work in the top of a stitch, because otherwise the join gets a little flimsy if you just go under 1. See how that opens everything up and puts kind of a hole in the edge? If you go under 2, it's a much more solid join. Now, sometimes that does seem to open up a little bit of a space. And working in the ends of rows is not the tidiest looking edge, which you'll see when I do a few more stitches. I'm just keeping an eye on that row of stitches and making sure that I put 2 stitches for that row of stitches. Here's my next row. If it helps, you can turn it this way so that you can see that's 1 row of stitches. And I like to keep my thumb right at the end of that row. See that? So that tells me in this space I have to put 2 stitches. So if I wiggle and push my hook through here, that's too many strands over the top. So let's try a wiggle and a push right there. That's 2. We'll do a single crochet there. And then maybe 1 more here. That's only 1 strand. There's 2 strands. Don't be afraid to take your time with this. So there, that's 2 single crochets for that row. And you can see they're not exactly evenly placed. And it's hard to do that because the 2 places in your stitch that you choose to place your edge stitches aren't exactly the same. The top and bottom half of a double crochet aren't exactly the same. And so the stitches that you add into this edge aren't exactly going to be the same. Now I'm using a different color of yarn so that you can really see what I'm doing. But the trick to doing edge stitches and having a nice clean edge is to do this in the same color. So if these stitches that I'm adding were in the same color as the rest of the piece, you wouldn't see these little inconsistencies along the edge, and it would be absolutely fine. Anytime you need to add a decorative edge, you should really go through and do a row of single crochet first in the same color as the block or the edge that you're joining to, then go back and do your decorative edge, and nobody will ever see these little inconsistencies.